Okay, so my video cut off, whatever, but and then I had to cook dinner. So really quick, let me just finish my thought on this. Okay, so the last thing we were talking about is God when He is maximally alive, engaged, and minimally resentful. When He's in relationship with us and what that looks like. And I thought of the story of Balaam. There's a story in the Old Testament of Balaam. It's kind of a weird story if you're not familiar with it, but he gets hired to curse the people of Israel. And it kind of has this sort of mythological layout where, he does it once, where he's going to curse him for money. Some other neighboring nation, paid him to do this witchery, sorcery thing. And he goes to do it, and blessings come out. And then, the guy's like, "Grr, stop doing that." And so then he goes to another side, and he does it again, and blessings come out. And then the guy's like, "Okay, this is getting out of hand." So then a third time he does it. Not only do blessings come out, but it says that the Spirit of God came upon him, which is like one of the earliest mentions of the Holy Spirit in the Old Testament resting on a person. And this is not even an Israelite. Because it says, when Balaam saw, and this is also very weird too, because you read later, like Balaam is actually like a bad dude, apparently, and like not anybody to be made example of. But I'm just so fascinated when I read this guy getting the Holy Ghost. It's like there's no prophets yet. Do you know what I mean? Besides, like, Moses. But Moses didn't really prophesy like this. So it says, "Now when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he did not resort to divination as at other times, but turned his face toward the wilderness. When Balaam looked out and saw Israel encamped tribe by tribe, the Spirit of God came upon him, and he spoke his message." And then he says, "How beautiful are your tents, Jacob, your dwelling places, Israel. Like valleys they spread out, like gardens beside a river." And it goes on and on and on about the beauty of their tents. And when you're reading it, you're like, yeah, that's typical. That's pretty typical God language, about his people or whatever. But also, you're kind of like, wow, God is really like into this. He's feeling proud of his tent wilderness group. And I was in the movies today, and I was thinking about it. Just popped in my mind, and I was like, is that God's first people group, the Israelites? And I was like, I think that's his first people. I think it is. And then I just was like, oh my gosh, that's adorable. I'm like, that is hilarious. Because before then, he might find a guy. Abraham. And then it was like, that even makes Job make sense. Because Job is supposed to be like one of the oldest stories ever. And he's like, look, there's a guy. I got a guy. Look, he likes me. And he's like bragging about Job. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Then he finds Abraham. And if Jubilees is any indication, the same thing happens to Abraham as did Job, as far as like being tested by God. Then he, and there's probably something in there about waiting 400 years for this group of people to sort of accumulate and do this thing for them at one time. And now he's like, look, I got a people. It's like every single small, there's like a small step and a small victory in time. Like I can see how that is happening and how the angels are just like, it's just this roller coaster. They are watching the best TV show ever. Oh my gosh. Because they're like, he like makes man and it's like, oh. And then they sin. They're like, oh. And then, you know, he gets a righteous one. And they're like, yeah. And then something happens, everyone, whatever. And bad stuff happens. They're like, ugh. Then he finds a righteous guy. And he's like, I'm going to work through you. I'm going to, you know, whatever, multiply your descendants. And everybody's like, yeah. And then they're waiting for it to happen. And then, you know, and then Joseph comes and like preserves the whole line because it's just a famine. And they're like, yeah. And then Pharaoh forgets about him. And Pharaoh comes along and forgets that, you know, Joseph ever existed, and then makes him do labor for hundreds of years. And it's like, ugh. And then God lets him out, and he's like, oh my God, look. Like, I can just see that. That's clearly what is happening. He's like the best. This is like gone on for thousands of seasons. He's the best writer in the world. So it's like the Israelites. It's like season finale. They're all in the desert. It's like the best season finale ever up to that point. The Israelites are drowned in the Red Sea. Like, how are we gonna get rid of them? How are they ever gonna escape? This is way before, like, do you not see? Like, this is way before any sort of storytelling devices that you could ever come up with could possibly exist. Like, I don't care where you think the story came from. Like, do you see how compelling this is? Can you imagine this being like the last episode of the season? The last episode of the season is just nonstop, you know, mayhem. It's like, what are they going to do? How is God going to get them out of this? And he gets them out of it. And then they're just in the desert, and it's just numbers upon numbers upon numbers. And then that's the season finale. And you're like, oh my God, I'm excited to see that. And then the next season, it's just, okay, season 1000, episode 1, we're going to learn how to be a people. And then it's like 3 episodes of them like, I'm floundering, blah, 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 you know, to get you invested. Like, it's genius. It's genius. So why everything is in story form, I have a theory about that, which I'll probably make another video about eventually. So anyway, the point is, I was thinking about how God was super jazzed about his people group that he finally got, like, legit. He's like, I got a people group now, everybody, that I'm working through. Totally legit line of, you know, established through faith, and I'm ready to do some work now. But the other thing that I've been thinking a lot about is like, and I said this in the last video, about the idea of having a people and making this oath with Abraham, and then he has this people group that he is sort of what do you call it, restricted to. So he like restricts himself to this people group for, you know, thousands of years until he unrestricts himself from that single people group. They're still part of it, but then when it is just like, it just distributes to the whole world. I mean, that's like, Jesus was like the series finale. Like, it was epic. It was epic. Epic. So this is like, I don't know, what do you call it? The epilogue or whatever. This is like, everything after this is like super epilogue. And like, you know, basically at the end of Revelation, I mean, it basically tells you, like, you know, we're going to start a new story after all this. But again, for another video. So yeah, the last thing that I was going to talk about, which I sort of touched on before when we were talking about boundaries, and how when you don't care about a person, you don't give them a boundary list. You don't give people you don't care about a boundary list. You just let them talk, and then you know, so they might think things went great, but they didn't seem to notice that, you know, you didn't, if there hasn't been any like meaningful exchange or conflict or anything, then, you know, you might want to question that relationship that you're in, because what's going on? And I realized that Satan follows this pattern. Never gonna see them boundaries. Satan does not tell you what his boundaries are. He's not gonna tell you what his boundaries are. And he might give you like some goofy. It depends on what route you go down because he, um, you know, understands what everybody's gonna fall for. But if you're gonna fall for like, you know, the only rule is that there are no rules, then that's what he's gonna do. Like he's got multiple hats. So that's like the most common. That's why people like him. Because if they don't want to serve Satan, he don't make them do that. He don't make people do that. If you just want to be left alone, he'll leave you alone. And people go, there's nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that? It's like be in a relationship like that where the person doesn't care where you go and they don't like, what even is that? Like that's not what God designed us to do. But most people love that. And then that's why people are in deception for so long because you'll never see the boundaries. The God of this world, you'll never see those boundaries. Here, there's only a few times when you see the boundaries, and it's when you come over to this here Christian side. Because guess what Satan's boundaries are? Don't talk about him. Don't mention him. Don't look like him. Don't look at him. Do not say his name. Do not champion any of his stuff or whatever. Those are his boundaries. That's what Satan's boundaries are. So guess how long it takes you to figure that out? Because he's not going to tell you. Because he hates you. So he doesn't want you to know the boundary. He doesn't care for you to know the boundary because he doesn't like you or love you. And he's going to keep the boundaries from you because he hates you. So it's just a double blind all the way around. So that's his boundaries. Don't come over here talking about God. That's his whole, and then he's instantly at 10 because he doesn't have the, I honestly, like, that's like a big thing that I see that he uses people for, because I don't think that he can be credibly, like, he just shows too much, because I think the spirit world in general, the more that you listen to it and the more you learn about it, it has, I don't know if you want to say it doesn't have the same limitations that we have, or it is limited, because it's just a lot more open. Like, the way that they communicate is really, really, like, it doesn't have, like, ours is mixed. Do you know what I mean? Like, we can say blessings and cursings out of our mouth. Like, that's bad, and God says don't do that, but we can do that. They can't really do that. They need to, like, recruit humans to be their face. I'm talking specifically about the devil, because they will do too much almost instantaneously. But, if they can get Karen to come and calmly just sort of put something in corporate speak for you, it takes a while for you to catch on. But then, if your eyes are open, then it's like super creepy. But if not, it just sounds like, we're really just not trying to go into a faith-based direction right now. It's just, it's not, we don't care what you believe. It's just, they need humans to do that, because they will just instantly show the whole thing, and they can't do that. So anyway, I think that's all I got. Yeah, that was a lot, right? But yeah, basically, I just was blown away to realize that we are reading the most involved, mature demonstration of healthy boundaries for a relationship from a book from ancient times, written by different people over the course of 1000s of years. And only someone who is actually supremely concerned about what we do here in our day-to-day lives would even come up with a book like this. We wouldn't know enough to do that. And, every other holy book is just a bunch of hullabaloo and appealing to your pride and your, intelligence, or, the mind, and, you know, just wanting to be cool and do wizard stuff, with a little bit of wisdom mixed in, all of these things that just are flashy and are going to appeal to you. This is the only one that is sort of down to earth, straightforward, and is concerned about things that are genuinely uh, like going to get in your stuff and make your life, just rebuild it from like the ground up. So I don't know. I thought it was pretty compelling, but let me know what you think. That just seemed like a good time to say that. I don't care. No, just kidding. No, leave a comment if you want to. I don't care. Yeah. Okay. I'm done.